It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we move into a Friday, we have some Red Eye Radio breaking news. And this time we have a heads up, Gary.
What?
The president has made it so that if any involvement by the U.S. in the Iran thing happens, it will happen while we're on vacation. Now, you may say, Eric and Gary, we know you've got influence at the White House. You made this happen. No, it's quite unfortunate that the administration said yesterday that, they're going to wait a couple of weeks. And, of course, that's when we start our vacation. So good luck, everybody.
Yeah, that would be not next week, the week after.
Right.
Yeah.
Which means if
again,
they make the decision in 2 weeks, it'll be during the week of our vacation when all that happens. And all the fallout happens, maybe literal fallout.
Well, since it was a week ago, we've got the war disinformation from Israel and the administration. I don't believe anything right now. So.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what you have to ask yourself. Why would any sitting president say any time frame at all? Announce any 2 weeks, 1 month, 1 day, 3 days, 4 days, any time frame at all? Why would you do that?
To appease the isolationists?
Yeah.
I was actually being serious.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I was laughing because it's actually true.
Oh, okay.
So funny because it's actually true. But no.
Well, I don't know. I don't know whether it's true or not. It's just. I think it's a legitimate question to ask politically.
Maybe true is the wrong word, but it is. It would be accurate. If it is. If you look at politically where the president is, then you're gonna. If you're trying to appease both sides, I might, but I might not. He's actually been saying that in recent days. But no, my point is that the timeline? We won't hear anything in terms of an address to the people if there's U.S. involvement until after it happens. So why put a timeline on it? Are you ninth dimensional chess? I don't know that Iran plays chess. But is it a tactic to, I don't know, could be a pause to, again, the specific timeline were, 2 weeks. And that was in all the headlines. 2 weeks. First thing you and I both thought is, okay, all this is going to go down while we're on vacation.
Well, no, he was immediately hit from his critics that you use 2 weeks all the time. Mm-hmm. You use that time frame consistently. Mm-hmm. Is that just who said it? Somebody in CNN, was it Caitlin Collins, I think, said, this is just a crutch. He doesn't know what to do, so he just says the 2 week thing.
Yeah,
and he's done it. He's done it. And then that was asked to that same question was asked by a reporter to Caroline Levitt yesterday, and she didn't answer the question specifically. She just said, "Well, it's a completely different. What's going on with Russia is completely different than this thing here, and it's all Joe Biden's fault." But she never addressed, the actual question. But it's in a way, it's like I said, it's a dumb question because it's the same thing as the, what do you call, if you want to call them, the mega isolationist taking Iraq or anything else and judging what Trump is doing now by anything else,
or judging everything by what he's saying.
Well, I mean, that's a legitimate thing. If he says something, you can. But to take the 2 weeks and say, well, since you use it 2 weeks over here, it must be over here.
Well, yeah, my point is that he's always back and forth. So if you judge it by what he's saying today, that may change tomorrow or this afternoon or 5 minutes from now.
He does.
So
he does evolve.
Yeah, he's grappling. And that's I have no doubt that every president goes through that. when the mission was lined out to kill Osama bin Laden in Pakistan, they talked about Barack Obama, grappling, and whether or not you could go in without notifying Pakistan. By the way, that would be a legitimate concern.
Well, I think what I saw yesterday is exactly what we had said the day before, which was, if you go in and you use the bunker buster missile, and at the same time, the goal is for regime change. And I read a couple of articles stating that this is what Trump is thinking. He doesn't want it to end up like Libya. He doesn't want a civil war and all the pictures of the humanitarian crisis, which is a legitimate thing if you're attempting to win public support for this.
And you also have to consider creating another terrorism superstate if the terrorist groups decide they want to go in, take control of Iran. And
they already have control of Iran.
Well, Iran is terrorist, but I mean other terrorist groups want to come in, and you create what we have in Afghanistan.
Well, I think it's. I don't.
In other words, the regime would be replaced by the new terrorist. The terrorist regime would be replaced by a new terrorist regime.
Well, I don't think it would be from outside the country. I don't think it would be. I think it would be in the radical Islamic fundamentalists in Iran. I think you would have either that happen, which could be a worse government, or you would have an uprising from the people, which could get bloody or might not get bloody. I don't think they have a read on what would happen, and that's the indecision. But the challenge here, and I'll say it's a challenge because nothing has been done yet. Call it a problem, call it a challenge. What I see is the president's strong statements when he comes out and says unconditional surrender and put that on X, just those two words. What you're implying is we are taking over. Israel and the United States will run your country. That's the message, because that's what an unconditional surrender is. Unconditional surrender, I mean, that's what you dealt with Japan. We'll do a conditional surrender. No, unconditional. And so he's setting these, the old red line, that it's unconditional surrender, and you do not get a nuclear weapon no matter what. I mean, that is a blunt red line there. And when I saw, okay, it's going to be 2 weeks and Iran's going to start talks with the Europeans today, well, you think that's going to get anywhere? Anybody think that Iran negotiating with Europe is going to move this forward in any way? Or is Iran just attempting to? And this is a challenge the president has. China's watching. Everybody's watching. He has set an extremely solid red line and communicated, even if he says he doesn't want the Ayatollah killed, and even though they're not the ones promoting regime change, when you say unconditional surrender, you are promoting regime change, because that's what the definition of it is. Unconditional surrender to whom? To the people? And that's why I've said with all the questions that are asked to the president, that would be the question that I would ask. If you're saying unconditional surrender, what does that mean? And so his critics are immediately going to jump. And I've learned when it comes to foreign relations like this, I'm not going to jump and criticize the president. I'll line out what the challenges are. But there were a lot of his critics pounding on him when he pulled back the attack on Iran after Iran, went after our ships and everything else. And then there was a pause, and then he killed Soleimani. In fact, did you see the post from Trump, the True Social post from Mark Thiessen? Saying, Mark Thiessen said, knock it all the for basically what we've said. Trump's never been an isolationist. He took out Soleimani.
Yeah.
This is a completely different. This is a completely different case because that was a direct attack on the United States last time. This is, as we've always said, this is the, this is preemptive, which, by the way, the 9/11 Commission, everybody forgets about that, the bipartisan 9/11 Commission, when they, looked at what was going on with Osama bin Laden and said they were at war with us. We were not at war with them, and we have to consider, preemptive preemptive attacks against, we should have considered it. When you're dealing with Islamic radicalism, it's a different ballgame. You have to be preemptive because we've seen what they will do. And it is a culture that can find young people who will commit suicide. The leadership doesn't want to do it, but you will get the young people to do it. So those are the challenges, and again, we'll see what happens in this, but his critics immediately jumped on and said, okay, he's stalling. And then the taco thing will come up again. He talks tough, but then he backs off. That's the political criticism. But as I said, for me, the jury is out until we see how this comes to fruition. And the reason he gets the benefit of the doubt from me is because of Soleimani.
He's not going to, again, announce moments ahead of time, hey, we're going in. Nobody saw the Soleimani thing coming.
No one did.
And so it wouldn't surprise me if something happens within the 2 weeks. It's my entire point. I don't go based on what the president is saying right now. It may be accurate right now, and things may change drastically based on the fact that this is an extremely fluid situation, highly unpredictable situation. And if they find out that Iran has mobilized nuclear weapons or moved them to another location, they have them in a location that wasn't anticipated, that would be hard for me to believe because Mossad and U.S. Intel both combined, I think, are unbeatable. But that, again, I have to include every possibility. Nothing is 100%.
The interesting thing is, and we'll play some of the audio later on, but there was an audio from the two-way podcast with Mark Halperin and Sean Spicer, and I'll just read the headline of it. Israel's going to kill him, says Mark Halperin about Iran's supreme leader. Says Sean Spicer, if the Ayatollah stays in command, he will retaliate. He will activate sleeper cells. So you hear that. Then on Fox Business News, General Jack Keane on there said, I don't expect them to do much in terms of major retaliation. My point is nobody knows in this situation, how Iran will respond. You have differences of opinion, from, I guess, who's a so-called expert on Iran and what they're going to do in the future. Well, really, no one is.
Well, and, if you look at the way things have gone in the past, everything is unpredictable. But as we said the other night, it's a case-by-case, very different situation, but also it is as unpredictable as those situations that have happened before. This is not Iraq, but it's quite possible. The sleeper cell situation could be triggered by the killing of the Ayatollah. This is, I heard a conversation today. That's where the terrorism superstate came in. We're talking other terrorist groups, not proxies, not current proxies of Iran, coming in wanting control of that oil money. And they did this in Iraq. They did it for 3 months shy of 3 years. And if they could come in and create, because I believe this is going on in Afghanistan, others believe it is happening right now, and the Taliban is helping. But if they could do this, another group, or maybe it's a continuation of what they're doing in Afghanistan, if they believe they can come in.
Are you talking ISIS, Al-Qaeda coming into Iran then?
Yes.
Okay.
And I just think, again, you have no idea. I believe our intel knows. My question would be, did the president see something that built the contingency out to be very different? In other words, hey, if we do this, we believe now this is going to happen. I don't know.
Or could happen.
Could happen. That there's a stronger possibility that this could happen. We talked about one of the Israeli officials who had them move people off that surgery floor, that hospital that was hit, because intel had actually assessed. The story went on. We had it yesterday morning as the breaking news was happening out of Israel, but actually it was intel that told them that this is, at the very least, we know it's vulnerable, but based on the way Iran strikes, this is the most vulnerable part of this hospital, but this is a greater likelihood right now. So clear everybody off that floor, and it saved, they think, could be hundreds of lives in that situation. So everything is very fluid, and I wonder if anything, I wonder if the president got any new information that changed his decision along the way. I don't know that to be the case. Just a question.
Or maybe he wanted to see, what the remember the ambassador to Israel said is going to happen really before the end of the week. There's
to see if Israel can handle this on their own.
To see if Israel can change Iran's mind by whatever, if that is true,
whatever their mission
is.
If
that wasn't disinformation from the ambassador, something that would be bigger than the beeper thing, and he'd say, well, let's see how they react to that first.
Right. Let's see if they can get the job done on their own without us sending a B-2 in.
I mean, there's a ton of different speculation on here, and we'll get to more of it coming up. 86690 Red Eye.
Hey there, Hope Savara here with Mother Trucker Yoga, and this is your health tip of the day. Healthy driver, healthy diesel, powered by House. Neck strain can really be a pain, especially after long hours behind the wheel. Did you know neck pain affects nearly 70% of drivers at some point in their career? So let's loosen things up. Sit tall and tip your head to your right shoulder. Now pull your left shoulder down gently and hold for 10 seconds. Switch sides, left ear to left shoulder, right shoulder pulls down and hold for 10. Now roll your shoulders 5 big circles forward and 5 back. Open your mouth wide and stretch your jaw. Hold for 10. Close and repeat that 2 more times. Finally, take a deep breath in through your nose, pause, and exhale through your mouth. There you go. Small, simple changes lead to big results so that you can feel good again. Visit mothertruckeryoga.com and houseproducts.com for more info.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carney and I'm Gary McNamara. Or it could be the fact that with the attacks already on their nuclear weapon infrastructure, the president, looks at it, and the CIA's analysis of it is the fact that it has been severely degraded where they can't do anything for a year.
Well, it's
and so you say, okay, they can't do anything right now. We've depleted their ability to do this.
Right. Yeah,
and so let's give it another 2 weeks. I guess the question for me is, what's the negotiation?
Yeah. What is the quid pro quo? What are you looking to achieve? By the way,
what's the compromise?
There was a story for the Wall Street Journal yesterday that we talked about the intel that essentially that the Israelis brought some intel on Iran, but the U.S. didn't believe it, didn't buy it. I'll see if I can bring that story back up. We talked about it briefly. Is that the case? Is that, okay, wait a minute, we can't trust this intel we're being given by Mossad 100%, at least not to the point of going in just yet?
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose.
And thank you.
You know, I was reading interesting articles we talk about, because the article was out there. The Wall Street Journal had the article last week that you were talking about.
Yeah.
That, the Iranians, the Israelis. By the way, Dick Durbin, just because I almost made that mistake again does not mean that my cognitive abilities have been depleted.
Yeah, right. The headline verbatim is from the article that we brought up yesterday. Israel built its case for war with Iran on new intelligence. The U.S. didn't buy it. Wall Street Journal from a couple of days ago, 3 days ago now.
Well, when you read, Andrew McCarthy, we've talked about him much. People have seen him as a Fox News contributor, and he has an article in National Review. What did U.S. intelligence agencies know about Iran's nuclear weapons program while telling us Iran was not building a nuclear weapon? He goes and looks at it. You know, the IAEA came out and said, no, they're on their way to do it. This is the UN.
Yeah.
And
right.
It's weird that the UN is saying, no, you've got this country doing it, and the
They're
United
not typically favorable toward Israel, to be clear.
Exactly.
IAEA, yeah.
And this is a major concern. And you had Tulsi Gabbard out there in March of this year saying, no, we have there's nothing whatsoever. Well, he goes through it and says, no, that this all goes back to the Biden-Harris administration. You know, remember, Biden.
You and I wondered that. We brought that up as a possibility that she's working off data, the intel that was created during the Biden years.
Yes. And Andrew McCarthy's point, and by the way, just so people know, Andrew McCarthy has no problem criticizing Trump.
No.
On a ton of different things, just so you know where he comes from, so you have a base knowledge of the fact of, does he have an axe to grind here against anyone? Right. If you're looking for what the bias might be in any article that anybody writes. But his point was the ODNI, Office of Director of National Intelligence, did not present the report they were supposed to last summer. And when they do, they would just poo-poo the fact of it was happening. And here's the conclusion from Andrew McCarthy. I can get into the whole minutia of it, and we may, but here it is. He said, he goes, looking at what The Economist, UK, said about the intel that induced Israel to launch ongoing combat operations. It explains there had been recent urgent push by Iranian scientists to weaponize uranium, evidenced by the squirreling away of a quantity of nuclear material of an undetermined level of enrichment, which was unknown to the IAEA, and the scientists planned to meet imminently with military commanders to prepare to mate a nuclear warhead with the missile. The discovery that in 2003, again, the point at which our intelligence agencies claimed the mullahs had given up their nuclear weapons program, which, by the way, was completely false. Mm-hmm. Iran planned to conduct a cold test of a nuclear weapon using uranium or of less than weapons grade. A special progress group of Iranian scientists formed in approximately 2019 stepped up its research in 2024, coincidentally, when Iran's incentive to rush to production of nuclear weapons ramped up due to the skirmishes with Israel. And he goes through and talks about the Biden administration, and he talks about what the former IAEA inspector, let me just get it here, David Albright, and researcher Sarah Burkhardt had to say, and this was in a Wall Street Journal editorial. It cites both of them saying that it has been for years customary for the ODNI to insist that Iran was not currently undertaking the key nuclear weapons development activities that would be necessary to produce a testable nuclear device. In the July 2024 report, however, it marks a shift. The ODNI concedes that Iran has undertaken activities that better position it to produce a nuclear device if it chooses to do so, and that's a quote. Significantly, as Albright and Burkhardt elaborate, the ODNI narrowly focuses on statements by Iranian officials and old news about the regime's enrichment capabilities while continuing to avoid any type of public discussion on what nuclear weaponization activities Iran may be undertaking. That is, the ODNI, this is under Obama and Harris, refrains from describing the activities Iran has carried out to facilitate nuclear weapons production. As Iran gets closer, the Biden-Harris administration hews to a default position that Iran does not have an active military nuclear program, as an ODNI official started in spinning the new report to the Wall Street Journal reporters. To be charitable, one might have abided such delusional thinking back when Iran was believed to be so far behind in enrichment capability that we could assume that we had several months' notice before it was on the brink of producing an atomic weapon. I cannot be that charitable. We now know that U.S. intelligence community was unaware. We did not know about Iran's Fordo enrichment facility when it generated the 2007 report, which absurdly claimed that Iran had abandoned its nuclear weapons program in 2003. Remember, Tulsi Gabbard also said that.
Mm-hmm.
She went back to 2003. We all knew that was false at that point. And Israel's intelligence 2018 acquisition of Iran's nuclear records proved the regime's years of lies and feverish production activity. Ergo, how can the ODNI proclaim insights about Iran's capabilities and intentions to be taken seriously? But here's his conclusion. All right, this is the important part. This is Andrew McCarthy now. To my mind, there is reason to believe that at least some of these developments were known to the ODNI last summer. And that's why it changed the standard wording of its disclosures to reflect that Iran had undertaken activities that better position it to produce a nuclear device if it chooses to do so. That was the quote. Yet declined to describe what those activities were. I believe the ODNI dragged its feet about producing a congressionally required report and then provided incomplete disclosure because timely and comprehensive disclosure would have hurt the Democrats' chances in the 2024 election. That is, it would have given Trump a club in which to hammer Biden and Harris, whose administration said it would prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. This is the Biden-Harris administration, but was unwilling to do anything about it. Indeed, the Biden-Harris administration was laboring to revive Obama's Iran nuclear deal, which put Iran on a glide path to becoming a nuclear weapons power. If I'm right about that, it would render even more jaw-dropping Trump's National Intelligence Director, Tulsi Gabbard's March 2025 testimony that our intelligence agencies continued to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon and that the Supreme Leader has not authorized a nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. No wonder the president asserted, "I don't care what his National Intelligence Director said," countering that he believes Iran was very close to a nuclear weapon. Congress should be asked hard questions about DNA Gabbard's testimony and about what the ODNI and other U.S. spy agency clearly knew but withheld from the public during the 2024 presidential campaign. What gives legitimacy to what Andrew McCarthy is saying here is the fact that Biden opened up the ability for Iran to sell their oil when Trump had stopped it, and he opened it up, and then they were just running like crazy saying, well, we know where the money's going to go. And then the whole, remember, the money is fungible and all that.
Yeah.
But that backs it up. They didn't care.
No.
Whoever in the administration was making, in the Biden administration was making the call on this, they didn't care. They didn't care that they were enabling the funding of hundreds of millions of dollars to the Iranian regime to give to its surrogates and also their terrorist surrogates, and at the same time help them revive and build and hide the progress of Iran when it came to nuclear weapons.
Well,
I think that's what you've seen was going on, which is why you and I, after her testimony in March of 2025, said, you've got to fire her now.
Well, it was bizarre because even if the incoming, at the time or newly seated DNI is saying that I expect there to be a reassessment based on all of the activity regarding Iran by the previous administration. You would have to look at this and say, I can't trust anything that has been built out over any reports built out over the previous 4 years.
Right.
I don't know what to. In fact, I was thinking this yesterday. I went back to the Obama Iranian deal, and I thought to myself, well, my gosh, this could be something that was in play during the Obama years. I mean, we'll just add to Andrew McCarthy's, take on this. And it's not just that Biden had the same approach. It's that he learned it from his former boss. And that this is what you do. And that you're basically looking at intel. You're using the intel. It's like, what do they call it? The Gaza Health Ministry. The liberal activist media uses the Gaza Health Ministry. Let us translate. We know our audience knows it, but for anybody who doesn't know, that's Hamas. That's their agenda. That's their information, disinformation that they put out all the time. Would it be such a stretch that a Joe Biden or then President Barack Obama does the same thing? The Iranians tell us they're not doing that.
Well, we know it is because the president agrees. Anybody who says, well, there was a difference, Israeli intelligence said this, and for the United States they didn't. Well, they do now.
Yeah.
United States does now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Trump says no.
Right.
He agrees with Israel.
Right.
So some information, that's the evidence that information wasn't getting out, the correct information, over the years of the Biden administration. That makes the case right there.
Exactly. Well, and that was the gist of the article yesterday that we brought up yesterday. It's from the 17th, actually, but we brought it up yesterday just kind of as a part of the conversation for the Wall Street Journal. Again, Israel built its case for war with Iran on new intelligence. The U.S. didn't buy it. Well, the gist of the article is that, all right, they didn't buy it, but then at the end, as the article pretty much comes together, they make the case that, well, there's no doubt that they're approaching that. They want to get the weapon, and they're approaching that. Everybody agrees in the scenario. And I thought, well, that's kind of, and look, no disrespect for the three people that put that article together at the Wall Street Journal, but that's kind of a given that everybody, that there are differing opinions in terms of the assessment of intel. That happens with every piece of intel.
And remember, people, when we talk to Wall Street Journal, the news division is different than the editorial division.
Exactly.
Which the editorial division believes that, yes, they are.
Yeah. And
of course they are.
Yeah, right. Well, and there's no way you're going to bring in young so-called journalists without them being activists too, to some extent.
Well,
right?
Look at this case. You have the UN agreeing with Israel.
Right.
Do we have to go any further?
Yeah.
The UN's agreeing with Israel.
That was it. The IAEA assessment and report. And by the way, remember what they said. For the first time in over 20 years, which is probably the first time in over 20 years also that the IAEA put out anything that favored Israel.
So we're sorry that we wasted 49 minutes. All we had to say is we didn't have to get into the minutiae of it. All we had to say is, no. The IAEA agrees with Israel.
Exactly.
The UN agrees with Israel.
The UN agrees with Israel. That's where the chatter just kind of went away, and anybody trying to say, no, that's not happening, that kind of went away. You and I talked about it yesterday. That really isn't the case. You have a few liberals still trying that, but for the most part, internationally, that isn't happening.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So when coming up on the top of the hour, so when you talk about negotiations, what are you talking about? What is there to negotiate? We'll get to that coming up. Plus, just a great another article that was great that was written about the mayoral race in New York. Going, oh my God, these are the choices that liberal cities are just doomed. We'll get to that and a whole bunch more.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara.
Hello.
Good morning. All right, we'll get to more of the Iran-Israel United States situation here coming up in a little bit. It's just the Friday show, and there's so much to get through.
Yeah.
And there's still audio cuts to play.
Right.
Oh, man, Obama was out there did the audio cuts from Obama. He really doesn't say anything. He really, when you think about it, he is so just not relevant anymore.
Yeah.
People are just, I think people listen to him and go, you don't say anything.
Yeah.
Or you just have this generalized umbrella as you pause consistently as if you're trying to grapple,
Right.
With the particular situation, but you really don't say anything specifically. We'll get to that coming up. But first, this is just amazing because a federal appeals court has indefinitely blocked an effort by California Governor Gavin Newsom to reclaim control of the National Guard troops President Donald Trump deployed to Los Angeles following unrest related to the immigration enforcement. Now, I'm reading this from Politico, so you can see you can see their bias. Gavin Newsom still has control of the National Guard if he wishes to have it for anything statewide.
Yeah,
Not losing
right.
anything.
Right.
Not saying that it's what the three-judge panel said, and there was a three-judge panel, 2 Trump judges, 1 Biden judge, unanimously said the three-judge panel of the San Francisco-based 9th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled unanimously that Trump appeared to have acted within his authority when he took control. Not appeared, he did. See, that's the bias.
Yeah.
He acted within his authority when he took control of 4,000 National Guard troops under a law that has never been invoked without the consent of a state governor.
Yeah.
By the way, the first one I read was I wanted to go to Politico because that's how they did the story. Let me go back to how Fox News, because I was first reading Fox News, and they didn't tell me. The reason I went to somebody else was because they didn't tell me that it was the three court or excuse me the three judge panel, right?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make sure that it was a 3-judge panel.
Yes.
But it's here's how Fox covers it. Trump scores major win against Newsom in battle for the National Guard control. In a unanimous ruling from the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals on Thursday, President Donald Trump was allowed to keep control of National Guard troops deployed to Los Angeles. The ruling stays a lower court order that ordered command of the troops back to Newsom. The president hasn't made a decision about the deployment of a National Guard without the permission of the state's governor since 1965. So Politico was wrong. It has been used before. In the filing, the court stated that they believed the president had made a lawful decision, affording the president the deference we conclude that it is likely that the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority which authorizes federalization of the National Guard when the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. The court also stated they disagreed with Newsom's argument that the president's decision to federalize members of the California National Guard under the law is completely insulated from judicial review. Oh, my gosh, is that funny? I don't know if anybody else saw the humor in it than Eric and I just did. But, I mean, I'm sorry. That was funny to me. The court, I have to read that again. I got a lot of enjoyment out of that. The court also stated they disagreed with Newsom's argument that the president's decision to federalize members of the California National Guard under the law is completely insulated from judicial review. What they're saying is Newsom saying, well, no, this is the argument I'm making. You don't get to judge whether I'm right or wrong.
Exactly.
Which, of course, is ridiculous.
Right.
But him saying that, here's the point. That this is the best political point. Everything we saw last Saturday, No Kings, was based on this.
Yeah, it was.
And the Ninth Circuit unanimously said to all the No King protesters, you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
And again, it bears repeating. I know our audience knows this, but for those of you who may not, the Ninth Circuit is the most pro-Trump circuit in the United States. We're laughing at that, too, because it's quite the opposite. And it's Newsom's position. That's like, no takebacks.
And
this is insulated from judicial review. Oh, sorry. We didn't know we were in Newsom world. I'm sorry. Is it your side that's preaching no kings and you're the one saying that this is insulated from judicial? I am the king. This shall not be reviewed at the judicial level. Sorry, King. We didn't mean to interrupt.
Governors are not kings.
Yeah.
No governor kings.
No Sacramento Kings. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, hold on a second. That's the capital. Now we know what it means.
Now we know.
Now we know what it means.
We just figured this out.
Oh, my gosh.
No Sacramento Kings.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, I love happy accidents. Yeah, it's we all knew where it was going to go, ultimately, if it even had to get to the highest court, that it was going to be in Trump's favor. But I think it really is interesting to hear how you're making it is insulated from judicial review. Oh, sorry, we didn't know.
I love it. No Sacramento Kings.
No Sacramento Kings.
And so, of course, Trump commented on it. Let me make sure I have the right story here. I've got so much here. I've got so many windows. So I've got a lot of windows open. Let's see. Trump said, big win in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on the president's core power to call in the National Guard. The judges obviously realized that Gavin Newsom that's what he first wrote, is incompetent and ill-prepared, but this is much bigger than Gavin because all over the United States, if our cities and our people need protection, we are the ones to give it to them should the state and local police be unable, for whatever reason, to get the job done. This is a great decision for our country, and we will continue to protect and defend law-abiding Americans. Congratulations to the Ninth Circuit. America is proud of you tonight. Even though the president failed to notify the governor before deploying the National Guard, the court cited Newsom had no power to veto the president's order.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah.
So there you go. But that's the political part of it and the entertaining part of it. The whole No Kings thing was based on illegal immigrants, what ICE is doing, and the president bringing in the National Guard.
Yeah.
That's what it was all about.
Yep.
The No Kings was
Yep.
all based on that. And the Ninth Circuit.
It says, no.
The Ninth Circuit says Newsom is not a king.
He is not a Sacramento king.
He is not a Sacramento king. No Sacramento Kings.
Can
Can we go home now? Because I don't think it's going to get any
I
better
don't
than
think
this.
we can top that.
Yeah, anything else is like going downhill from there.
Damn it. Well, it is Friday, though.
Well,
I mean,
then again.
at least it is the Friday show, and we can, this is. We don't know what we're going to do for an encore later, but
Well, there is still some analysis of The View.
Thanks for bringing it down, Gary.
It could get fun again.
We always manage. That's the thing. We know that our audience is not going to watch The View, but if you want to experience highlights from The View in an actual entertaining way,
Lowlights.
Eric and Gary can make that happen.
Lowlights from The View.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Oh, my gosh. Greg Gutfeld the other day on the 5, he said, I'm convinced Arnold only wanted to be on The View to look skinny. Yeah. Oh, man. I was listening, actually, in my truck, and if I'd been at home, I would have made some popcorn for that one. That was good.
Did you notice Whoopi's haircut?
No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah, she's got it shaved all along the side.
Oh, but that's been for a while.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Yeah, I don't think she always pulls it up.
Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, she's done that for a while. Yeah. I was thinking about that, but not for aesthetics. My head's so big, I'm thinking about renting space on my head for billboards. So I just shaved my head and then put a logo there. You can call your representative now, and I'll give you a 20% discount. Yeah, it's interesting watching the Ninth Circuit. Okay, so what have we covered in the last hour? The IAEA actually favoring Israel in recent days. Was that go back a couple of weeks? And the Ninth Circuit, it's a 3-judge panel, but the Ninth Circuit favoring Trump.
Oh, and one more.
Huh?
Because I saw our great friend Larry O'Connor at WMAL said, you notice I'm paraphrasing, but I think I'm doing justice what he said. You notice none of the Arab countries are going crazy over the possibility of Trump going into Iran.
Which was kind of the point that I was making yesterday. I did it on basically a wider scale, but globally, that internationally, you're not seeing that kickback.
Yeah, we said that in general, but
but that's
when he specified the Arab.
It's a more specific, in fact, greater point, I think, that Larry makes, because they've all said this, and I did mention that you have other nations in the region saying, we want de-escalation, this is wrong, wagging their obligatory finger, right? And I'll say that was probably bad phrasing. Doing their obligatory thing and wagging their finger. I don't know which one the obligatory finger is, but I
think I do.
I have a clue, but it's not the same as you've seen before. There wasn't this massive, great protest and throwing a gauntlet down saying, look, if the U.S. backs this, we're no longer going to, you know what I mean? Throwing that kind down. Here's my question, and I did wonder about this. How much of that table was set with the president's recent trip to the Middle East? We talked about it then. He did not visit Israel during that trip. So I wonder how much of the table was set. And that's the intent, by the way, openly, not even behind closed doors, openly setting the table. Hey, we can do business this way, and it's good for everybody, or not. And I have to believe that's a good thing. I have to believe that gave the president international leverage, certainly leverage with those other Arab nations. Not that I expect them to be friends of ours. I'm not. That's not my point. Not my expectation. But certainly an understanding of what the landscape is.
Well, but that's one of the things we talk about. What's there to negotiate? Because when I saw the headline on Fox, it said, "Okay, the negotiations between Europe and Iran." I don't care.
Right.
I don't care. The negotiations between Iran and Europe mean nothing to me.
Right. Yeah.
Negotiations between Iran, Israel, with the administration's approval, with the edict that you don't get to build a nuclear weapon, and the devil's in all the details in that, which means inspectors have to be allowed anywhere, anytime, 24/7, without any notice whatsoever. Because what is Iran, when you sit there, we're going to negotiate? Trump has said unconditional surrender. You're not going to build a nuclear weapon. We're not going to allow you to do it. Well, then that means what is the compromise the United States? When you negotiate, both sides are going to compromise.
Yep.
Where's the compromise going to be?
Right.
Well, you can have the inspectors in there when we say so. And then you go back to exactly where we've been for the last, 45 years.
Yeah.
With Iran, you haven't gained anything. So when the president said there's a substantial chance of having a deal done, what's the deal?
Right.
What's the deal, especially when you've set the line of unconditional surrender, no nuclear weapon?
Right. Yeah.
What will be viewed as peace through strength? We got the peace and we got the negotiated settlement because of strength. Well, the strength is the red line you've set.
Yeah. Right.
So that's the challenge.
Yeah.
We'll see. 86690 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Surviving and thriving as an owner-operator has just as much to do with managing costs as it does with generating revenue. Understanding basic principles of operating costs can save you thousands of dollars a year. Costs are not the same each month. If 9,600 miles are driven one month and 10,000 miles the next, two different sets of costs apply for each month. For example, if your tractor payment is $1,850 per month and you drive 9,600 miles in the month, your tractor payment is costing you 19.3 cents per mile. Drive 10,000 miles, though, and that same payment will cost you 18.5 cents per mile. This is one of your major fixed costs while paying off a truck loan. The difference in this example is only a fraction of a cent, which may seem like small change, but it ultimately amounts to $960 more annually on the bottom line. Because though fixed costs do not go down over time, you can reduce your cost per mile with more paid miles. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Yesterday we talked about SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States. Someone asked me one time, said, "You guys say SCOTUS? What's a SCOTUS? It sounds dirty." It's like, no, it's
Not as dirty as a POTUS. And don't even ask me about FLOTUS.
SCOTUS, SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States.
Yeah.
POTUS, we can't get into that.
No,
but here,
not on the air anyway.
Yes, here's Caroline Levitt responding here.
Good afternoon. The Supreme Court, as you know, has upheld Tennessee's ban on transgender medical procedures for minors, puberty blockers, hormone therapy, etc. The White House reaction to that, please.
It's a huge victory for America's children, and it's obviously something this administration believes strongly in, that young minor children should not be allowed to be subjected to chemical castration and mutilation. The president himself has taken very strong orders, or has signed very strong executive orders on this, and we are grateful for Tennessee's efforts to protect our children, and we are grateful the Supreme Court ruled on the side of the law, but also on the side of protecting America's innocent children.
All right, got that right.
Okay. All right.
By the way, every time a Democrat says gender-affirming care for minors, we should go after them.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Gender affirming.
Yeah.
Affirming whose take?
Yeah. Don't try to put frosting on your perversions.
Yes, exactly.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. All right, let's play some audio cuts. We got to get them. We got to get through the audio cuts.
All right. It is Friday.
Obama's making the rounds now.
Okay, all right, okay.
Let's see what Obama has to say. All right, here we go.
But part of what we're going to have to do is to start experimenting with new forms of journalism and how do we use social media in ways that reaffirm facts, separate facts from opinion. We want diversity of opinion. We don't want diversity of fact. By the way, it will require some government, I believe, some government regulatory constraints around some of these business models in a way that's consistent with the First Amendment, but that also says, look, there is a difference between these platforms letting all voices be heard versus a business model that elevates the most hateful voices or the most polarizing voices or the most dangerous in the sense of inciting violence voices. And that I think is going to be a big challenge for all of us that we're going to.
No.
I'm telling you,
It's already covered. Inciting a riot.
Yeah.
It's already covered.
And these people.
Hate speech, by the way, is covered by the First Amendment.
Well,
you may not like it. In fact, most people may not like it. But then we get back to the government defining hate speech. I love the part where he says, that's consistent with the First Amendment.
Well, he's trying
how painful was that?
He's trying to cover all. He's trying to cover all bases.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like that's what the free market has done.
It's already in place.
And the reason that you lost is because people can fact check themselves. The reason your party lost, people fact check themselves, and that's why the 34 felonies didn't work.
Right.
That's why calling him a Nazi over and over again didn't work. But I just the biggest thing, and you and I said this a long time ago, when Obama was in office, that when they were saying this guy is just remember Evan Thomas with the D-Day, his first D-Day, he rises above everyone. He's not provincial. He hovers above all of us. He's godlike.
Yeah.
This guy is the biggest BSer politician ever who says absolutely nothing. We said early on, he's a cocktail socialist. He's not even a socialist. The socialist in the family, as we always believed, was probably Mrs. Obama.
Well, yeah.
But we called him a cocktail socialist. He would just go around, okay, what sounds good? What sounds good? I'll throw this out. I'll throw this out. I'll throw this out. America bought his BS.
Mm-hmm.
It was pure BS. He's one of the biggest BS politicians ever that wasn't called on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he didn't say anything there.
No.
We want diversity of opinion. We don't want diversity of facts. It will require some government regulatory constraints, but it all has to pass the muster of the First Amendment. He's trying to cover all bases in this huge umbrella, and he ends up saying nothing.
Well, what he's actually doing is he's filling out the trifecta. It is exactly what John Kerry was saying. John Kerry said it more direct. First Amendment gets in our way. The difference is the former president here just tried to, and it sounded like it was so painful for him to say.
I know.
In a way that is consistent with the First Amendment. It's because he had to, the fact that he had to throw that in. Well, consistent with the First Amendment, of course. I mean, But he's saying what Hillary said and what John Kerry said. We as a government need to be controlling the information more. Keep in mind, we now know it was during his administration that the government was heavily involved in controlling what was going on social media.
Oh, yeah.
He just said, he brought up social media. And we need to get away from opinion. In other words, what he's saying there, reading between the lines, the government needs to come out and punish you on an opinion thing. He's not talking about the media having a bias or an opinion. He's talking about individuals. He wants to get back to what they were doing back in the day on Twitter, on Facebook, and now anywhere. So this is their agenda. He's filled out the trifecta. John Kerry, Hillary, and now Barack Obama have all essentially said it.
Let's hear more. Because now he says we can't have democracy unless. Here we go. All right.
Democracy is not self-executing. It requires people, judges, and people in the Justice Department, and people throughout the government who take an oath to uphold the Constitution. When that isn't happening, we start drifting into
like you.
Something that is not consistent with American democracy. It is consistent with autocracies. We're not there yet completely, but I think that we are dangerously close to.
My God, he's so painful to listen to.
It's so horrible.
I mean,
remember when?
God, it's horrible.
Remember when
Shut up.
a couple of guys on the radio in the middle of the night said, "You need to stop doing press conferences because every time you do, your numbers go down."
Yeah.
His approval numbers dropped,
Yeah.
and he quit doing press conferences for over 10 months.
Yep.
And this is a true story. If we cared enough to go back into our archives, let me rephrase that. If we cared enough to keep archives of our show, we could go back and actually prove that when we said it was the beginning of them, because we believe he listened during his smoke break at 2 a.m.
When did he
come back?
No. It wasn't 10 months because it was like, I think it got to be like April, like January, February, March, April when he first got into office, and then he didn't speak again till he had the speech in September of that year on Obamacare.
Well, no. Not that he didn't speak. It was the live press conferences.
That's when I think he did a live press conference. He did a live press conference on Obamacare.
I don't know.
I thought it was September of October.
I thought
of that
somebody
year.
had made the point that it had been nearly 10 months.
Okay.
And I wasn't making the point. I think somebody wrote that. But
Okay,
he
maybe
went
it
for,
was. Yeah,
he
I
went
just thought it was.
for a very, very long time.
Yes, he did.
Without having any press conferences. And you go back and we said days before they announced there was going to, and we thought it was funny that it happened that way. We said, at some point, dude, you got to go back to talking to the media. 2 days after we said that, that was like on a Tuesday morning. That following Thursday at the White House press conference, the normal daily press briefing, they said the president's going to have a press conference. And he started having press conferences again. Again, we believe he listened during a smoke break at the White House at 2 a.m.
Well, it's always tough to get a read about what's in somebody's mind, but observing him as long as we have, and this is not new. We said this way back a long time ago. I think that the one thing that he BS to the American people is that he and I had an idea of what America should be, sort of like Clinton did when he got. And I'm not saying that he didn't have socialist leanings, but I always called him a cocktail socialist. He didn't fully investigate. He's not as smart as people think. He's not somebody who researched and actually looked and was able to explain socialism versus capitalism. Mm-hmm. That's why you hear him hesitating here. He doesn't know where to go. He's trying to find the right rhetorical statements that will get people to say, oh, yeah, that's something to think about. But he's actually saying nothing.
Well, he's
saying everything.
He's trying not to.
He's everything.
He's trying not to promote his agenda. The reason he's pausing is because his real conviction wants to say, we need as a government to come in and shut down the people we disagree with. We need to do that on social media like I did when I was president.
Yeah, I mean, he's against the political opposition, but I never thought, I don't know. I think it wasn't for him just power. I believe it was the celebrity that he enjoyed more than anything.
I think in fact, that was
the celebrity and power.
If there was an 80-20 on his assessment of that job, it was 80% the celebrity thing. The 20%
power
was he wanted the celebrity. He wanted the power that made him the celebrity.
The celebrity, yes. That's what I always got out of Obama. And when he got elected, it's like, man, that was the perfect example of what my father always said. Obama was the most perfect example ever that people want to be BS'd. They actually want to be BS'd. And the bigger the BS, the more they wish to be BS'd more. He was the perfect example, Obama was. Because you listen to the two audio cuts we played, it's like, dude, you just can't even throw out a statement without having to hesitate, contemplating what your next piece of, what your next rhetorical phrase is going to be to make sure you get it right.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
And you get it right by saying everything, and by saying everything, you've said nothing.
Right. Exactly.
Because the whole point is, well, what do you mean? We're following the First Amendment now. What do you mean? Government regulation. To what point? And nobody's asking those questions of him. They let him just throw out this broad umbrella of bull crap.
Yeah.
Without ever having to explain it.
Right.
But he's so passé now, and nobody cares. It's like...
Right, exactly.
And it's tough to listen to him now. It's like, shut up.
Well, and after the breakup, he doesn't seem like the same guy. Not Michelle, George Clooney. That breakup.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. A new poll out, what Democrats want. This is the rank and file.
Mm-hmm.
Democrats, so we will get to that. We'll hear from my congressperson.
Oh, wow, it's been a while.
Yeah.
All
yeah,
right.
She was out there, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
In her Carol Burnett curtain rod dress. Did you see the dress she was wearing?
Yeah.
I mean, talk about high shoulders.
Yeah.
Like, jeez.
Yeah.
Talk about padded shoulders.
Yeah.
People remember the Carol Burnett where she did the Gone with the Wind with Harvey Korman.
I think that was actually a curtain rod that went across her
What
shoulders.
I say?
Well, you said, I think you said curtain rod.
Yeah, curtain rod. Yeah,
Yeah, but I think it was an actual curtain rod
it
they
was
used on the show.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
yeah.
That's what I mean. It was an
Yeah.
actual curtain rod that
Yeah.
they used,
Yeah. And it was like painfully obvious. It was
it was-
a curtain rod.
and it was hilarious.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, that's the first thing.
Oh, my gosh.
First thing I thought of when I saw her dress, I'm like, well, those are really padded. Wow, that's the Carol Burnett curtain rod bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was one of the, to me, was
Oh,
one
my
of the
gosh.
funniest because
Oh,
the audience just
man.
lost it.
Oh, just
You know?
insanely funny.
You think of that one, and I think of that. I think, and then the rest are all Tim Conway,
Yeah, pretty much.
the dentist.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
we did the dentist. What was the other one was the elephant one. Remember we did the elephant song? Remember that one was they were doing Mama's Family thing.
Yeah.
That was an outtake because that's where
Yeah, that
That-
was because that
yeah.
was on the set. That was not a live variety show. And that was on the set. I believe that was an outtake. I don't think what you see on the YouTube portion of that is.
I think that was
Is
an
what
well
aired.
because cursing was in it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's how I know.
Yeah.
And they all fell to the floor. I mean, so the bit never continued. So I think it was
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get to that. Plus, this headline in the Babylon Bee: Texas Republicans tip off the federal government and State Department that Austin has nuclear weapons.
Yeah. Well,
It's going to be one of
Wait
those
for it.
warnings again.
yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Oh, man. You know, it's all the Republicans' fault in the redistricting a couple of years ago. I was in a Republican district, congressional district,
Yeah.
and the Republicans moved me into Jasmine Crockett's district.
See, you've always criticized me for living in a mobile home. This is why. I'm sorry. Gerrymandering who? Start the truck, boys.
Maybe I'll live van life,
Exactly. Right.
searching out Republican districts to live in.
Yeah, by the way, what is their address?
By 3 blocks.
Right, yeah.
3 blocks. I'm in Jasmine Crockett's district.
That's right.
3.
Right. Had a mobile home, that wouldn't be a problem.
And I live in such a nice neighborhood.
I know, double wides.
No, that's not true.
No?
No, because
Only
I would
single
have.
wides.
No, I would have towed it and been out of there.
Exactly. That's what I'm
So,
saying.
No, I live in a real house.
Yeah.
I can't move it.
Yeah.
A real house. I'm going to get some
A
complaints.
brick house.
What do you mean? I have a real house.
Well,
So I had the
I
debate.
do have a problem with the people's. This is a tiny home. That's a refrigerator box, ma'am. It's actual cardboard with the warranty information on the back of it.
I do love the people that when they do the tours of their tiny houses, and I understand what some of them are. I've seen a lot of women that got a divorce and they're older, and they're like, we sold the house, the assets, and everything else, and said, oh, I don't want to live in something that big, or I was left the house and it was 4,000 square feet. It's like, yeah, but you went to 400 from 4,000.
Yeah, right. Listen, if you stand sideways and put your arms out, you're fine.
And I'm not going to have a loft where I have to duck my head in order to go into the bedroom.
No, if I had that, I would have to have a trampoline on the ground and bounce up.
Now the thing is, I mean, when they talk the actual money of it, and they seem to be happy, and and I saw one the other day. The kids are all grown and gone, and they had a divorce, and she was living in a big home, huge house, and said, "Oh, I sold the house and was able to buy this, and it's really, really nice." But everybody says, a lot of people say, I had storage units, or it was the hardest thing getting rid of everything. And one of the things in life, for example, I lived in the North for such a long time, and I have probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 winter jackets, but the majority of those are jackets that I got from radio stations that I worked for, that have the emblem of the radio station. I think I have an ABC one from our ABC days, but beautiful winter jackets. I mean, top of the line that you can get. I have one, I believe, from our great affiliate KXL when I worked in Portland, Oregon. Beautiful. I mean, just a beautiful winter jacket. Jacket with the liner that you can take out or put in. One for when it gets to be a little wintry there, and the other one for when it rains. I had one from the radio station I worked at in Buffalo. So I've got all these winter jackets. I don't need them. I could give them to the Goodwill, and I just can't let go. And I believe me, my entire life, because living in the South, living in Texas, I don't have a basement. I realize when I go and visit friends and stuff in New York and go into their basement, how efficient I have to be in my house that's not close to being a tiny house. I can't imagine living in a tiny house. I just can't imagine, not having or having to store everything, because there's no way I could get rid of everything.
Yeah.
I've got, as George Carlin would say, too much stuff.
Yeah.
But not as much stuff as if I had a basement.
Right.
Because all I'm thinking of is storage all the time. And I'm one of those that if I don't need it, it goes. But with clothes and stuff, I don't know. But somehow I don't know how we got. Oh, yeah, with the tiny home that I needed to get away from Jasmine Crockett's district because it had wheels on it. That's where we were. But you ready for Jasmine? All right.
What do you got?
And this made it to the White House yesterday. But here she goes, and you sit there and you go, "What the hell are you talking about?"
This idea that we don't care how many people get hurt, we don't care how we prostitute our service members, thinking that you have your own special little army that's for you. I mean, it is sick. It is really sick. And anybody that supports it is also sick. And so, we've got a mental health crisis in this country, because everyone, no matter how you affiliate yourself, should be against Trump, period. This is not partisan for me. Like, I would give anything to have, it's sad to say, George Bush. Give me any regular Republican nowadays and I would be happy. But right now we have someone who does not care, and he is being enabled by the fact that there are, people that follow him and they pump him up, as well as the people that are surrounding him. And so, my heart breaks for service members, people that signed up to protect democracy and freedom, not only here, but abroad, and were willing to risk their lives. And now, literally, the very thing that they signed up to fight against is now their commander-in-chief. It really breaks my heart. And I don't know how far he has to go before we can come together and just say enough is enough.
Okay, she's. It looks like she's starting the evolution of, complete BS and lies, but not ranting and raving about it, at least in that interview.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But let's go to Caroline Leavitt, who was asked the question about Jasmine Crockett, saying that Trump supporters are mentally ill. Here we go.
And then really quick on Jasmine Crockett, she said, I believe, that Trump supporters are mentally ill before calling for bipartisan support against the president. Can you respond to that, especially considering she's a rising star in the Democrat Party right now?
She is a rising star. It's quite something to behold, actually. I hope that she continues to be a rising star for the Republican Party, at least. I think it's incredibly derogatory to accuse nearly 80 million Americans of mental illness. The last time I checked, Jasmine Crockett couldn't dream of winning such a majority of the public as President Trump did. And the America First movement, which President Trump has built, is filled of hardworking patriots, the forgotten men and women, business owners, law enforcement officers, nurses and teachers, and middle America, as we all know, from where you all grew up, outside of this beltway. That's who makes up this president's movement. And Jasmine Crockett should go to a Trump rally sometime, and she can see it for herself.
I like the way the administration, it's very good politics to do what she was doing there. Mm-hmm. If I had I do have my political consultant hat on, when the reporter said the rising star in the Democratic Party, she didn't say no, she's not. She said absolutely, she's a rising star in the Democratic Party, and we hope she continues to be a rising star in the Democratic Party, because you have a huge bully pulpit, and so what you're doing is forcing the Democrats who want to, many of them wish to move away from Jasmine Crockett. Well, how do they respond to Caroline Leavitt in the White House and Republicans say, no, she's that rising star inside the Democratic Party? Their only response has to be either they agree with her or they agree with the administration, or they have to come out and say, no, she's not the rising star in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, right.
Either way, it's not good for them.
No.
But Jasmine Crockett, I just love it when she said that he has his own army.
Yeah.
What the hell does that even mean?
Yeah.
And the fact is, that came out on the day that the Ninth Circuit said what Trump did by calling up the National Guard is constitutionally protected unanimously in the 3-judge Ninth Circuit panel.
Yep.
Which is on the West Coast.
Yep.
And what they said is there's no Sacramento Kings. Newsom isn't a king.
Exactly.
We don't mean the basketball team.
No. They should still exist.
But when she starts saying, you've seen the recruiting now for the military. It's gone through the roof. They reached their goal already.
Yeah.
Because of Trump. So she lives in this, Jasmine Crockett lives in this absolutely delusional world. Let me get the exact quote. The idea is we don't care how many people get hurt. What are you talking about? That's why you called in the military.
Yeah.
You don't want people to get, that's why you called in the National Guard. You don't want people to get hurt. That's why you do it. We don't care how you prostitute our service members, thinking that you have your own special little army that's for you. What's the example of Trump's special army being for him?
Right.
Give us the specifics on it. Don't just throw out rhetoric. Look, Jasmine, listen, nobody pays attention to Obama anymore. Don't try to impersonate him. Be specific in your criticism. You can't. You have to throw out generalities that aren't true because you can't win on the specifics. But if you want to know how the media is biased, that would have been the first thing.
Yep.
Well, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Service members. Why do you feel sorry? The recruiting's through the roof because of Trump.
Right.
It was down when Obama was in. It's up now. What are you talking about? And when you say his own little army, for what? You say that he doesn't care if people get hurt. Well, that's why he called them in, so for the violence stopped.
Yep.
And when violence happens, people get hurt. What are you talking about? You're all over the place. That's what a real reporter would have done.
Yep. And of course, they don't care to do that.
No, they don't.
No.
The bias isn't going away. None of it's going away. The rhetoric isn't going away. There was a Reuters poll. Democrats want new leaders, but when you see what the voter wants, it's the same thing. Class warfare. Give us stuff.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yep.
And it's like, no, we'll have the specifics of that coming up here in a little bit, but it's just, it's humorous. You and I were laughing during the Jasmine Crockett thing because it's so bizarre and absurd, and it doesn't make any sense at all. She wasn't connecting the dots.
No, it's again talking in terms of lies. She says it as a matter of fact. Well, everybody should be against Trump, and then other lies like if he were just a regular Republican, George W. Bush,
who they call
Hitler.
A Nazi, and Hitler. Yes,
yeah.
He was called Hitler
right.
too.
So what she means is future Republicans don't have a chance, but the ones from the past who are no longer a threat, I like them. Did you know he paints? I mean, seriously. For the love of garbage here.
Oh, I've got to put a
you talk about intellectual lightweight. Just not a smart person. She's just not. She's not a bright person. What did you just hear? Lies and hatred. That comes from ignorance.
Can we play one more?
Sure.
Listen to her
She's
analysis.
She's your congressperson. You decide. You should hear from your congressperson more, Gary. So, yeah.
Okay, let me hear from her.
All right.
Here we go. She talks about Kamala. Here we go.
Right.
Now, this is where the full delusion is clear for everybody. Here we go.
Because when you think about it, Kamala Harris, light years ahead of Donald Trump as it relates to qualifications, as it relates to her overall resume, and as it relates to the fact that she was a lot younger. Everybody said that they wanted to get rid of Joe Biden because he was too old. Then you had a younger, qualified, non-felon candidate, and somehow the people still chose the old white man. So, for me, I don't think it was ever about that.
Kamala's qualifications were light years ahead of Trump. She couldn't even complete a sentence.
Yeah. Yeah.
She couldn't make a coherent argument.
Yeah, right.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. We like it. Yep. She's the rising star. She's the new leader of the Democratic Party, Jasmine Crockett. 866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's we. We're not it's, we're we. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. We're not it's. That's the incorrect pronoun.
Mm-hmm.
We are we.
Yeah, we are. It's true.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. All right, now they've upped it. Wall Street Journal editorial page covered it. The Social Security iceberg gets closer. The official trustees now estimate the need for a 23% cut in benefits plus 11% to Medicare in 8 years. With all the enthusiasm of a madman, the U.S. continues to barrel towards history's most predictable crisis. Social Security is now expected to be insolvent in 2033, necessitating a 23% cut in benefits. The Medicare Hospital Fund will run out the same year, requiring an 11% spending cut. That's according to the annual reports filed on Wednesday by the official trustees. These predictions, notably worse than last year's.
No.
The blow to Social Security benefits is 2 percentage points higher, and the default date is 3/4 nearer. One factor cited by the trustees is that Congress, in its infinite generosity with other people's money, recently passed the deceptively named Social Security Fairness Act, topping up benefits for state and local government workers. The Medicare depletion day has moved 3 years earlier, owing to higher actual and expected cost. So there you go. Yet everybody's saying can't touch, do not change Social Security whatsoever. Well, we're going to have to. And I think what you're going to see, they're going to increase the amount that you pay. There's not going to be a cap anymore. And I bet you they will start doing
means tests.
Yes.
Yeah.
Means testing on it.
Yeah.
And raise the age again. Slowly keep going up on the age like they've been going up. They have no other choice but to do so.
Of those, it'll probably be do away with the cap altogether. They've been lifting the cap for years. I mean, that's been going on. So then lift the cap, altogether. And then beyond that, it will be and the cap, if you think about it, if someone has no cap and they're making, and they're a high earner, then it's like, well, if you do away with that cap, then you can't cap their benefits. Well, yeah, you can. In today's world, you're going to. Politically, you'll say, okay, it may mean that someone who is a high earner is because this is what it will come down to. Someone who's earning more basically is going to have to pay a lot more into it. Cutting the benefits politically, you're not going to get that done. And that's not going to change between now and 8 years from now.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. We had played Whoopi Goldberg yesterday trying to make a moral equivalency between the United States and Iran. She just got pounded yesterday. Eviscerated yesterday, especially in something that we had brought up. Was the entire thing on women. And we've said, look, if you're a Democrat who believes that men should compete with against women in sports, if you're part of the misogyny, the women hatred that use the bullying and threatening of women in order to get men to play in it, that type of misogyny, and then you come out and you start saying that women and blacks are treated the same as women or any other minority or gays in Iran. My God, they'll execute you. They've got, just saw a story the other day about 2 teenagers who, put up a TikTok or something video where they're dancing. They're in prison.
Yeah.
But when you just overall, I mean, it's the most amazing thing I think politically I've seen is there's no doubt everybody recognizes that after November of 2024, the Democrats are lost and that they've got to change. In fact, I've got the story right here. Democrats want new leaders to focus on pocketbook issues. Well, then you need to make yourself heard.
Yeah, right.
You should have been upset when your party decided to be the party of the racist identity politics.
Yeah.
You should have been upset when your party continues to say we judge people by groups and not individuals. You should have been upset when the concept of individualism and autonomy was viewed by Democrats as white supremacy. because they had to push over and over again. You cannot judge somebody autonomously and individually. You must judge them by the groups. If you don't, everything falls apart.
Yep.
For the Democrats.
Yep.
You should have been upset with the radical transgender movement. You should have been upset and verbally upset. And by the way, you know, you look at Trump, Republicans will criticize Trump.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the whole thing right now with Iran. The warmongers versus the isolationists. I don't believe that that's necessarily an accurate representation, but that's how it's been labeled by his critics.
Yeah.
People criticize Trump all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans criticize Republicans all the time. But what do they criticize them on? Where they stand on the issues. And it's the specific issue of where they stand, not a generality, not what we've heard today from Jasmine Crockett or Obama. They can't get specific on anything because what they believe, the public looks at and says, that really sucks. You know? Where you stand sucks. So they took a poll. Reuters did. What do Democrats want? Democrats want new leaders for their party, which many feel isn't focusing enough on economic issues and is overemphasizing issues like transgender rights and electric vehicles, the Reuters poll found. The poll found a deep disconnect between what Democrats say their priorities are and the issues they believe their party leaders care about. Let me see. Some 62% of self-identified Democrats in the poll agree with the statement that the leadership of the Democratic Party should be replaced with new people. Only 24% disagreed, and the rest said, I don't know. Only 30% of Republicans polled said they thought their party leadership should be replaced. Democrats' dissatisfaction is also playing out in leadership changes, including this week the resignation of Randy Weingarten, the influential president of the American Federation of Teachers, from the Democratic National Committee, which followed the ouster of progressive activist David Hogue. The Reuters poll surveyed 4,200 people nationwide, July 11th through July 16th. And then I love this here. California Governor Gavin Newsom, who is viewed as a potential Democratic presidential candidate in 2028, agrees. People don't trust us. They don't think we have our backs on the issues that are core to them, which are these kitchen table issues, he said in a podcast in April. We remember that podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Didn't say anything.
No, he didn't.
Because he said it, and then he promotes the exact same crap that he's always promoted.
Yep.
Mark Riddle, who heads Future Majority, a Democratic research firm, said voters are very impatient right now. They want elected officials at all levels to address the cost of living, kitchen table issues, and affordability. The poll found a gap between what voters say they care about and what they think the party's leaders prioritize. It was particularly wide on the issue of reducing corporate spending in political campaigns, where 73% of Democrats said they viewed putting limits on contributions to political groups like super PACs a priority, but only 58% believe party leaders prioritize that. That issue matters to Sam Bolin, 29 years of age, a Democrat from Minneapolis, who views super PAC money as a way to legally bribe candidates. Sorry, you can't do anything about that.
Nope.
That's just the reality. And as you see, most of the time, the vast majority of the time, 99% of the time, who the super PACs support and who any lobbyists support,
right?
It's what they believe already.
Yes.
So, but they all believe that, okay, if we do this, it's going to change. No, it's not. It's like term limits. Term limits would not change anything.
No,
because of the congressional districts and the way that they're made up, you would simply get a clone of Nancy Pelosi, whatever.
It. Well, even a more radical Nancy Pelosi. I mean, it's there are no guarantees. It's, you shift it one way. It's like, again, squeezing a water balloon. It's going to go bigger the opposite direction.
86% of Democrats, let's see where the voter stands. 86% of Democrats said changing the federal tax code so wealthy Americans and large corporations pay more in taxes should be a priority. More than 72% of those surveyed think party leaders make it a top concern, but 86% of Democrats say they should do that. Now, as we've always said, the most successful economic lie Democrats have sold is corporate taxes. That corporations should pay more. Democrats love taxes on the poor and the middle class that are stealthy. Oh, yeah. And that's exactly what a corporate tax is.
Yep.
They pass it on to the consumer.
Right.
Democrats love to tax the poor.
Well, because
we've asked this question since we've been on together, 20 years next month.
Yep.
Why do Democrats love taxing the poor in secret?
Well, and the inevitable play is the taxes kick in, they're passed along to the consumer, and then we're going to look into price gouging.
Now,
these corporations are gouging the people.
Now, we understand that everybody is affected by it in a stealth way, but it hurts the poor and the middle class the most.
Of course, yep.
And it's a stealth tax, and the Democrats love it. The Democrats, we have to ask you the question, why do you love a stealth tax? Why do you love a stealth tax on the poor?
Right.
What is it about taxing the poor and the middle class in secret? Why do you embrace that? Because that's the top issue.
Yeah, yeah.
That's 86%. That's the top issue there.
Yep.
Dissatisfaction over the party's priorities on several economic policies was stronger among younger Democrats. For example, only 55% of Democrats 18 to 35 thought the party prioritized paid family leave that would allow workers to care for sick family members and bond with a new baby, but 73% said it was a priority to them. Among older Democrats, the same share, 68%, that said the issue was a priority for them. Said it was not a priority for party leaders. They claim that criticizing Trump over his conduct won't be enough. That cannot be enough. But if you see what Democrats want, everything that I see here, every single thing I see here when it comes to economics is about government providing you more.
Yeah.
Taxing the rich, taxing the poor and the middle class through corporate taxes. It's the same thing. We want a bigger government. We want more benefits and more free stuff. So the Democratic Party isn't changing.
No.
There is no change here. Then they get into the thing. They go, other Democrats said the party sometimes overemphasizes issues that they view as less critical, such as transgender rights. Just 17% of Democrats said allowing transgender people to compete in women and girls sports should be a priority, but 28% of Democrats think the party leaders see it as such. No. 100% of Democrats should say that the Democrats in Congress prioritize it too much because 100%, okay, 99.9% of the members of Congress continually promote and vote for men playing against women in sports.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's this weird attempt. We keep hearing, essentially, well, the party needs to change.
To what? There is no change on any issue.
Where's the pivot going to be? Oh, we're going to drop our lawsuits where we're fighting for children to be able to mutilate themselves and not have parents involved? Are we going to stop that fight all of a sudden? Are we going to start screaming? Are we going to pretend like Kamala did that we want to build a wall? That we're stronger on the border? We're going to quit fighting to someone actually said it. I saw it the other day. It was an old article, but I just saw it. Repatriate Abrego Garcia. Trump did that. Of course, they were talking about bringing back, because he's a Maryland man. He's a Maryland man. This is what they're fighting for.
Look.
Where is the pivot going to be where they're going to go, oh, no. We were wrong. We want to deport all of them. We want to deport all the criminals that are here illegally.
I don't believe even what the poll says, because Democrats loved this past weekend's No Kings protest. They loved it.
Yeah.
Did you hear one Democrat come out against it?
No.
Have you heard any Democrat, any Democrat that said they shouldn't be doing that? It doesn't make any sense. Even though we saw yesterday the Ninth Circuit should have communicated to Democrats that they believe there should be no Sacramento Kings, which would be Newsom. Newsom was shot down. The whole thing of the No Kings was based on the fact of Trump bringing in the National Guard. He's a king, he's a king, he's a king. No. The Ninth Circuit Appeals Court communicated that Newsom thought he was the king.
Yeah.
And so you get caught up in all of this. You say you want them to change, yet you still do the same stupid things over and over again that make no sense, are not based in any truth. And then you say, but the party should change this way, yet you're all in favor of what the party is doing until it doesn't work. Then you go, well, maybe they should focus on something else. Let's focus on this. It doesn't work over here.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Just amazing. Wow. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour, the latest any updates that come from Israel and Iran we will have for you. Plus, here's the headline. Millions of students dropped out as higher education shifted focus from degrees to DEI. You and I said this, that once kids and parents figure out that the return on the investment isn't there, just like anything else, they'll move to something else. It may take a period of time because the culture has been go to college, but we see that's slowly being reversed.
Right.
We'll get to this story coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. You know, the interesting thing is when we had talked about the Reuters poll about what Democrats want, and the Democrat voters want them to be focusing on more economic issues. It's the same economic issues. Take care of me. I want free stuff. Tax the rich. Make sure that you stealth tax and hurt the poor and the middle class more with corporate taxes. I mean, it's the same old, same old. They haven't changed at all. But when you think about it, we play Jasmine Crockett, who, again, is completely and totally delusional. But you go here. Let's go to, I can't think of her name. I'll figure it out in a second here. Number one, we got to get, and I think Scott Jennings comes back today. This is one of the Democratic consultants. I'll get her name in a second, talking about how authoritarian regimes like Trump happen.
Yeah,
and listen to her justification of what an authoritarian regime, how it happens. Here we go.
So this is not the first place authoritarian regimes have taken over. And when you look at what has happened in other countries where that has happened,
Ashley Allison, very quick. Okay, here we go.
They use certain issues to actually try. Immigration is one. Trans issues is another one. And what has this administration really focused on? Immigration, trans issues. And they use it because they think it's an issue that they can get public opinion on them. But it's backfiring right now, I would say, on this administration. This authoritarianism is bigger than an immigration policy. It is about the consolidation of power and not having free and fair elections in the future, not letting the judiciary actually be an equal branch of the public, not briefing Congress people before we're about to take a massive strike and maybe send people into war. Yeah.
And every issue she has brought up has been an issue since I've been paying attention to politics for a half century. Nothing is new here. There is no authoritarianism here at this point. The Constitution is working fine. I don't always get the outcome that I want, but the Constitution is there. But to sit there and say, and she said, how authoritarian governments come like this one. It's not an authoritarian government.
No, it's not.
And so the voter is saying they got to get off, they got to quit going after Trump, and all they do in the media and all the Democrat politicians still do is go after Trump and lie about the particular situation. And Ashley Allison did it on the day, just a few days. Think about this, because we're only at Thursday, and no King's Day was Saturday.
Well, it's Friday now, but yeah.
Yeah,
but that was Thursday.
That was Thursday,
She
yes.
said it.
I know this is Friday. Yeah, that was Thursday.
Yeah, I was trying to break good news to you. Go ahead.
Okay. Thanks. I can't wait to cut my lawn in 96-degree heat today. Woo-hoo. Thank you. I can't wait. Thank God it's Friday.
Yeah.
But there she is bringing up the authoritarian thing on the same day that the Ninth Circuit Court came and said, no, the king is in Sacramento. It's a Sacramento king. It's Newsom. He's the king. Trump can do this. Trump has the authority under the Constitution to do this. And again, for Democrats that don't know, like Ashley Allison and Jasmine Crockett, Congress is, in our constitutional republic, the elected representatives of the people. And so they make the laws. The Constitution, as it exists today, went through the constitutional process, the democratic constitutional, the congressional republic procedure of becoming the Constitution and the amendments that came with it, all went through the democratic process. And so what's Trump doing? What's Trump doing on immigration that's unconstitutional?
Right.
What's he doing?
Right.
He's following the laws from Congress on the whole thing. The entire No Kings protest last week was based on Trump sending in the National Guard in order to stop the rioting of people attempting to get federal employees from deporting illegal immigrant criminals. I mean, the thing is, they don't have one damn point, Eric. Not one.
No.
I mean, it's hilarious. It's like they're sitting there, but nothing comes out. And today, I don't care whether it's Ashley Allison there. I don't care whether it's Jasmine Crockett. I don't care whether it's Elizabeth Warren. I don't care whether it's Obama. None of them connect any dots of any type of critical thinking or logic or truth at all.
No. Well, again, we've talked about this before, where they don't anymore start with, I believe this is an authoritarian government. I believe Trump is Hitler-esque. No, they state it as a matter of fact, right? They talk. We heard Jasmine Crockett And now again, and countless Democrats, they all do it now. Well, of course, it's authoritarian. Everybody sees it. Everybody knows it. You just say it as if it's the fact. You know, it's almost the way that Newsom took the whole thing to court on the National Guard. Well, this is insulated from judicial review. What are you trying? Is this some kind of Jedi mind trick you're trying there?
It seemed like the Ninth Circuit really snapped back at that one.
Well, it's because it's so you do that while it's being taken to the court. You're telling the court, yeah, you guys don't get to say so in this. Meanwhile, the same side believes that the courts should intervene on everything else that Trump does. So it was rich all the way around. But this is how they argue. They just say it. And the tone is especially important when they do this. Because they want it to sound like it is a known fact, widely known fact, 100% consensus. And because when they do that, what are they doing? It's the same thing as shouting, crying, getting emotional, which they also do. You're trying to keep people, shield yourself, insulate it from the public review, is what you're trying to do. You're trying so that if you stated it fact, no one in their right mind would try and challenge you. And, of course, the liberal activist media isn't going to. I'm telling you, nobody, if we were on TV, nobody would come on our show. We would have zero return guests. And that includes some mindless Republicans who think they're going to get away with it because they believe they're in friendly territory. Nope.
If you BS, we're going to call you on it.
It's just the way it is. And
you saw Matt Gaetz get think of Matt Gaetz getting pounded on yesterday because he was talking about Israel and that Israeli Arabs can't vote. And people are like, what the hell are you talking about?
Well, it's again, I don't understand the tribalism for a person. I understand wide support for a president or candidate for president because it's a big deal and you want the party to go that way. And with Trump, it was based to a large extent on meaningful actual issues. But the whole thing when there was, the back and forth on that with Matt Gaetz when all that stuff was falling out. Well, where's your Matt Gaetz now to save you? Even with Matt Gaetz thinking he was MAGA, and on the day that the whole Kevin McCarthy thing fell out, you had a liberal activist reporter call Matt Gaetz out right there on the fly and get him burned right after it happened. And said, well, are you talking with at that point, are you talking with Trump as former president, but are you talking with Trump on this? Well, yes, we spoke just the other day. Are you aware that he just posted on social media that this isn't the way to handle this?
Yeah. And he was using the whole
in other words, he called you out, Matt Gaetz?
Yeah.
I've said this before, but it bears repeating. I don't care if it's Iran or political things. If you think you're walking with Trump for a minute or forever because you've been there for a minute, think again, Mr. Musk. Think again, Mr. Sessions. Think again, the whole list of people, because this is a guy who, like it or not, agree with him or not, ultimately is going to be on his own when he makes a decision. And there are a few people that can actually influence him for a long period of time, and those few people happen to also be named Trump.
One of the things that I think that they're throwing out the authoritarianism when it comes to the immigration is when you think about it, think of all presidents out there. Tell me another president that has walked in and within a 3-month period solved an unbelievably huge problem like illegal immigration.
Right.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of any other issue that any president. Now, again, I'll criticize Trump. You'll criticize Trump.
Sure.
But you give him credit for the things that he has done absolutely wonderfully. And on illegal immigration, what has he done? He has followed what the federal law is. Yes, he's attempting to challenge some things because he believes a court will go with him, which every administration does. That's not Hitler-esque.
No.
Trump isn't saying, I'm not going to abide by what the Supreme Court says or what any of the courts have said.
Right.
He disagreed with the one district court, and he's going to win that one. He won that one politically. But he's nowhere. He's not even close. He isn't as close to an authoritarian as the auto pen was.
Exactly.
When it came to Democrats, think about the Democrats and the censoring, the censoring industrial complex. You think about what happened at that. At that, but just like that since the auto pen.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's the censoring industrial complex.
But I think that they are so upset of his success because when you tell that to people, they'll go, "Whoa, yeah, you're right." Tell me the last president that came in with the number one problem that people saw, and solved it within 3 months, made it better than it's ever been before. Well, the opposition has to hit and say the only reason that he did it is because of his authoritarian Hitler-like whatever personality or actions, whatever, which it wasn't. In fact, the person who said, I'm not going to follow the law was Obama.
Yeah.
I'm not going to follow the law. I'm not going to follow federal immigration law.
It's just, the whole Hitler label. The guy they call Hitler right now is really the only one who has power on the planet, the ultimate power, quite possibly, to save the Jewish people. He's the one they call Hitler.
Yeah. Well, that's the amazing thing with the pro-Hamas stuff. And that's the problem, but that's the problem the Democrats have.
Yep.
You scream this, and people look at it and go, no. He's following the law.
Yep.
And
which is why we believe their intent, and they're intent on getting this to the courts so it can be for everybody to see, fully vetted that he's well within his power.
Yeah.
But from a party that didn't have a guy in power, had really no one in power, well, all due respect to Otto Penn, for 4 years.
No relation to Sean.
Exactly. His brother Otto. That's what you get when they all say, like AOC, I'm the boss. They all think they're in control. They think they're the rock star. They're in the age of performative art. They're all that matters. And then when a president comes in who actually has the authority, who actually takes charge to protect, by the way, all American people, even Democrats. Sorry, Democrats, we know that stings a little bit. Then they can't stand it. Come on, we had a White House that was just wide open, multiple people in control. One person shouldn't have control. That's what they believe. That's exactly what they believe. Sorry, doesn't work that way.
Well, you have to understand the executive branch, too, and apparently they don't understand the three branches of government.
No.
But to think about, what got me was Allison talking about, the authoritarianism, and Jasmine Crockett talking about the authoritarianism, and it was the day that the Ninth Circuit said Trump isn't the authoritarian. He's not the king. Gavin Newsom thinks he's the king.
Right.
There is no Sacramento Kings.
We
on the
wrote
same
that, by the way.
day.
That's right. That's a Red Eye. That's a Red Eye exclusive original.
Yes. 866-98 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Drivers must always be prepared for a roadside inspection. This means drivers should always have their personal, vehicle, and company credentials organized and ready, and having any shipment paperwork such as bills of lading or hazardous materials shipment emergency response information organized and ready for the inspection official. Just an FYI, the top 2 violations written against drivers every year, as well as during Operation Road Check, are log general form and manner and log not current. Both are completely avoidable if the driver keeps the log accurate, compliant, and current at all times. Having the vehicle ready for inspection involves the driver conducting daily inspections and making sure any problems that are discovered are immediately corrected. Vehicle readiness also requires the company to make sure that the vehicle is current on all scheduled maintenance and that the maintenance schedule is adequate. This will make sure the driver is being given a sound vehicle to start with. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Carney, and I'm Gary McNamara. We'll have another example of a Democrat politician. And this is all in relation to the poll that was taken, the Reuters poll, saying the voters saying, you got to stop just attacking Trump. You just got to stop attacking Trump. You got to start hitting some issues that we believe, economic issues. And I don't believe it will be successful because it's still the same thing. Give us free stuff. We want you to address our economic issues, which means gives us free stuff. That's what Democrats are saying, and the leadership doesn't relate to us. You got to just stop throwing stuff at Trump. It's not working. Right. We'll show you Brandon Johnson in Chicago try to do the exact same thing, including saying that Trump wants to eliminate black existence from this country.
Yeah, okay.
Does anybody actually believe that?
No.
It's such an outright lie. It's such huge, over-the-top, insane rhetoric. And they're using it probably more than they were 6 months ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carney, and I'm Gary McNamara. And just interesting as we got on this particular narrative, and it was based on the poll that was done of Democrats, and this is Democratic voters saying, we want our politicians and we want the Democratic Party to get off of just pounding on Trump every day. It's got to be more than you're just anti-Trump, anti-Trump, anti-Trump. And we're showing you yesterday everything was simply anti-Trump. They can't justify anything that they're doing. It's just anti-Trump, and it's things that aren't true. And we started it all off with the Ninth Circuit Court 3-judge panel unanimous decision that Trump isn't a king, Newsom's a king. It's a Sacramento Kings.
Sacramento's the capital, so he's the Sacramento King.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a Well, I just want to do Kings because it relates to the basketball team.
I know.
Probably.
By the way,
we'll probably get a cease and desist.
I'll say this. For the people that live in California outside of Sacramento, Sacramento has a basketball team. And they're called the Kings.
We'll probably get a cease and desist. You said Kings, not King.
All right, lighten up, Francis.
I think we'll be okay on this one.
We are. How did he phrase it in the legal battle? We are insulated from legal review on this.
Yes, insulated from legal review. Trump is wrong, and the court said, "No, you're not."
Yeah, exactly.
To Newsom, and we said, "Wow, they just communicated that Newsom is the king, not Trump." And the funniest thing was when I saw that yesterday, I burst out laughing because it was easy to connect all the dots that the whole No Kings protest last week was about Trump bringing in the National Guard. Yeah. He's a king. He thinks he's a king. He can do this. Mm-hmm. We played, Jasmine Crockett. He thinks he can have an army just for himself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then the whole thing of the authoritarianism and the whole king thing because he brought in the National Guard without the permission of Newsom, where the court said he doesn't need it. He's protecting federal property.
Right.
He can do this. Under the Constitution, he's right. You're wrong. You're calling him the king. You're supporting the Sacramento king.
I think this is maybe what we saw yesterday was their way of not addressing the Ninth Circuit, but directly, but addressing, in fact, all the court cases that he's winning collectively. Let's just start going out and stating things as fact, because nobody's going to pay attention to the court cases he's winning. Of course, we are all paying attention to the court cases he's winning. Maybe that's their new tactic. Just come out and just state, well, he's authoritarian. Everybody knows that. He's Hitler. Everybody knows. He's wrong and can't do this. He doesn't have the authority to do this. Everybody knows. Well, and I think that's it. It's the trying to win it in the court of public opinion, which they still don't get. The American people aren't stupid. The left believes you're stupid. You can be willfully ignorant. I mean, even Jasmine Crockett can apparently win an election, but you can't.
I didn't vote for.
Only, what was it, 84%, 85%?
It was like almost 85% of people voted. There was
no challenger, right?
No Republican challenger.
No Republican challenger.
There was a Libertarian challenger that got 15% of the vote. All right. So you know. Yeah. So you know where my vote went.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, to give another example, all right, Mayor Brandon Johnson getting pounded every day in Chicago. Mm-hmm. You know, spending $1 billion of taxpayer dollars on illegal immigrants and then saying, okay, we're going to be raising your taxes. And it's like people are just going crazy. Here he is on CNN. And so what does he have to do? He has to turn this towards Trump and listen to what he says about what Trump wants. Here we go. All right.
As you well know, the city is facing a significant budget deficit and spending hundreds of millions of dollars on migrant support. How do you justify these expenditures to taxpayer concerned about other pressing needs that you just listed right there about the concerns?
Well, we are addressing those pressing needs, and the reason why we responded to this global crisis of the migrant mission was because the federal government failed to do its part. You know, Governor Abbott spent over $220 million to ship people across America instead of working with Congress to actually pass substantive immigration reform policy.
Well, number one, first off, Governor Abbott is not part of the federal government, so he's really not going to be working with Congress for comprehensive immigration reform.
No.
Mayor Brandon Johnson doesn't know that, but he's not a part of it. And he didn't ship. He asked if they wish to go to a different place in the United States. Yep. And we'll take care of you for it.
Yep.
But again, you notice he said the federal government, which would be, I'm assuming he would be blaming Biden for that. But listen to what he says about Trump. Here we go here.
They wanted to create division, but we're not going to allow that to happen in the city of Chicago. Much like we fought for civil rights 60 years ago, we're going to continue to make sure that whether you are black, brown, Asian, white, young, old, working people deserve to be prioritized. And this misnomer that there's division, and consternation within communities solely based on this issue is just wrong. He's working to eliminate Black history. He is trying to eliminate Black existence from this country.
Trump is trying to eliminate Black existence from this country. Is there any semblance of truth to that at all?
No.
Is there 1% truth to that?
No.
Is there a 0.5% truth?
No.
Is there 0.0000001% truth to that statement?
No.
No.
By the way, in the audio that we played from these liberals this morning, what is the one common thread, or one of the common threads?
Besides insanity?
That's why I had to change it to one of the common threads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What is one of the common threads here? You pointed it out earlier. Jasmine Crockett wasn't all over the top excited, screaming, and overly emotional.
Yeah.
Mayor Brandon wasn't either.
Yeah.
Again, in order to project these lies, in order to tell these lies and present these lies, and just lob it out there and make it sound factual, I don't know. Are there new talking points? Quit going off with fireworks and just do this monotone and state it as fact kind of thing with your lies.
Yeah, just say it
don't get all googly about it.
Say it in a mellow fashion.
Right. Quit doing the all the flashy performative art thing. Because Jasmine Crockett, if you play that cut we played earlier, compared to some of the things that she's said recently in recent months, it's vastly different in the tone.
Yeah, but it won't last.
I don't think it will, but I think it's interesting. All these cuts are not them shouting at podiums and doing this, over the top emotional thing.
Animated
I don't
stuff.
think they can contain themselves. I think they love doing the performative art, overly animated thing.
Well,
I think they love doing that because they think it brings their TikTok numbers.
Well, that was really no. They just took the day off because all the performative art was at the Oregon legislature, where they started out with the drag show.
Yeah, that's true too.
So that was where the performative art was.
Yeah,
let's do a drag show.
Yeah,
because it was to honor drag queens to start the Oregon legislative day.
Yeah. It is their new civil rights movement.
I mean, just what in the hell?
Yeah.
And their goal is to relate to the working person.
That's right. Yeah. Hey, Larry, before we get out there to the job site, what do you say we go down that drag show? Catch that. I hear they have a good breakfast there.
I remember when I worked, this goes back a ways, and I worked with I was a club DJ, and I worked with all these women that seemed to be, just regular women that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And they were totally into going to the drag shows on Friday night. Gary, you want to go?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's the... Oh, my God, yes. I was thinking this week has gone on.
I've been going all week wondering who's gonna go with me.
Who's gonna invite me? I mean, because I've got to go to a drag show. Yeah. I've got to. It's so. What kind of fuel are they using in there?
Yeah.
No. You're thinking
not that kind of drag show.
Thinking race cars. Oh, okay, all right, that's it. But yeah. And I never understood. I remember asking one time why. I asked one of them. I go, what's his fascination? Oh, we find it's a lot of fun. I'm like,
yeah, okay.
I guess.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
I was like, I don't have a good time.
Yeah.
You go do that. I'm going to the corner bar this weekend. I'm going to play Space Invaders.
I would love to find, if they opened a bar /
classic games
type of place. Man, I spent so many quarters in those places. The games places, not the bars.
Yeah, the only video games or any arcade games I ever played was pinball in college.
Yeah, okay. So you're 10 years older. For me,
than Space Invaders.
Yeah,
and then I was done.
I was during, and there was probably 5, 6, 7 year stretch that arcades were all about Galaga, Space Invaders, all of that. Space Invaders, I think, was pre-Galaga, right? For me, though, everything was Galaga. I was a monster on Galaga.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh yeah, man, I could. They did a cheap version of it on this little TV app that you could do with your TV, and then use your remote control. It doesn't work. No, I need to find a machine, a Galaga machine, an actual machine. Remember when George bought Frogger? Wasn't he trying to save his high score?
Yeah. So they had to hook up the batteries and everything.
Yeah.
It's like the only thing he accomplished in life. Remember, he looked at Elaine and said, Elaine, you don't know how important this is to me. I'm never going to have children.
Yeah.
But
right.
I have the high score.
Will Forte has one of the highest scores in the world on, what is it, Mario Brothers?
Really?
Yeah, like in the top 30.
I guess that's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
His choice was to focus on that or drag shows.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, I have an exciting weekend planned.
Yeah. Lawn work and hang out in her district.
Yes, I'll be hanging out in Jasmine Crockett's district at my house, doing my lawn work, cutting some of the shrubs, mulching the back.
You're looking to improve her district.
Yes,
by doing so.
Yes, I'll be looking to improve.
You're looking
Jasmine
to
Crockett's
maintain
district.
and or improve Jasmine Crockett's district.
It's beautified Jasmine Crockett's district's
weekend.
Yes.
There you go. Gary's taking charge. Congratulations.
You're welcome. 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today because our show ends in an hour. After our show is done, our entire 5-hour show becomes a podcast. That's right. And you can listen to it on our Red Eye Radio app if you only can catch 1 hour, or we know that people, they're up late at night and listen, maybe catch an hour if you want to catch more of the show. Just check out our Red Eye Radio app. And also, if you can't for some reason listen to one of our great radio stations overnight, we stream all 5 hours live on the Red Eye Radio app.
Yep.
Coming up following the top of the hour, the latest report, the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center found that millions of students are dropping out of higher education and shifted their focus on their degrees. We said this was going to happen.
Yeah.
When you create a college bubble and college kept becoming more expensive and more expensive, and young people weren't getting jobs and creating tons of debt. Eventually, this is economics. People say, "I'm not getting the proper return on my investment. I'm going to do something else."
Right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.